So let's make a Pro Tools template. Start by making a blank session. I'm just going to call this Beskid template and save it somewhere special where you know it's always going to be. Okay, so I've got my blank session here. I just need to get started. I'm going to identify exactly what kind of project I'm going to be doing to start off. This is going to be a radio commercial template, so I'm thinking about having some voiceover, some music, and some sound effects, so that's going to be the purpose of this particular template. So let's get started. Shift-Command-N is a shortcut to create new tracks. I'm thinking at least 2 voices, so 2 mono audio tracks. And if I want to create all the tracks all at once without having to come back to this dialog box over and over again, just hit the plus sign over here. I'm also going to do 4 stereo audio tracks, thinking 2 for music and 2 for sound effects, just in case I need any overlapping sound effects or music there. I don't have to worry about sort of cramming them all onto one track. I'm going to hit the plus sign one more time and create 1 stereo master fader, because I always want to have that master fader there for the purposes of watching my levels and making sure that all of these different audio tracks that I have are funneled into one, and make sure I'm not clipping on my final output. So now I'll hit create, and really quickly I've got all those tracks set up for myself. Personally, for me, I like to have as much real estate in my Pro Tools window as possible so I can see everything going on. So I'm going to close this clips window over here on the right. I do that, this little arrow in a vertical line down here sort of shoves that over a little bit. And also I'm going to maximize the space used by these audio tracks here. Now I could go one by one and adjust the size like this. But in Pro Tools, if you hold Option, you're going to apply whatever you're doing to all tracks. So I'll hold Option and do that, and I'll be able to adjust the size right there. Cool. Next thing to do is to go through and name all these different tracks, whatever's appropriate. So the mono tracks are my voiceovers. Just go through here real quick. Then I'm going to go with music, 1 and 2. And then sound effects, 1 and 2. Not sure why our master fader always gives you a number on there, but I'm just going to get rid of it because I don't like it. Okay, so that's looking pretty cool, but I'd also like to kind of colorize these things to create easy separation. So I'm going to hold Command to be able to select multiple tracks. So I've got my voiceover tracks. I'm going to double click on this color panel here on the side of my track to bring up this color window. I don't want to just brighten these up, a little purple fuchsia kind of thing. There's also this little saturation button right here. That can be really useful. So instead of just coloring the side, it colors the whole area here. And then I can adjust that intensity here. Okay, so similarly for the music tracks, hold Command and select those. I'll make them green. My sound effects tracks will be a bright blue, and my master track will just be a little brighter red. So that easily, now it's eye-popping. I can figure out what exactly I'm doing right away. Similarly, I'm going to create groups for these things. So much like the same process, I'm going to highlight the voiceovers, and I'm going to hit Command-G at this point. And whatever I had selected is immediately going to be put into this group. But this window also shows me all my other options, any of the other tracks that are available, and I can add those to the group if I want to. I'm going to name this group. The reason why I like doing groups is because it's like if you have 2 different voiceovers and you finally get to a point where you balance their volumes well together, but then you realize that they're a little bit, say a little bit low in the overall mix, then I can select a group and then make a volume adjustment, and it will, anything that I do to one of those tracks, it will apply it to the entire group. So really quickly, let's go through what we're looking at here. Do I want this group to affect both the edit and mix functions that I can do, Do I want to just do the mix, just the edit? And also, am I going to link the solo and mutes with those things? This is the way I like to work. Edit and mix, mutes and solos. And again, what that means is, now that I've created this voiceover group, I've got this little group section down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So when I select my voiceover group, you'll notice that if I hit solo, it's going to solo anything that's in that group. Same for mute. If I make volume adjustments, it does that to both tracks. Very cool. Only problem with this is to make sure that you deselect your group if you want to make a change to an individual track then. So I'm going to do the exact same thing for the music and the sound effects. Command G. I've got them in the group. I'll call it my music group. Same down here. This is my sound effects group. I'll make sure those are deselected for now. Other things that I want to do is make sure that I have some processing, some plugins available for me, especially on the voiceover. So we think that music and sound effects are probably already going to have been passed through any sort of effects processing that they would need because some sort of production library created them. But with voiceover, I'm always going to use the 7-band EQ and the compressor. Now I'm not going to actually apply any settings to these because I'm not sure exactly at this point which voice I'm going to be looking at. So different voices are going to require different parameter adjustments on these things, but I'm most likely going to use them regardless. Like any voice is going to have a little bit of adjustments using those two plugins. Now instead of going through and creating them again on my second voiceover track, I can just hold Option, click and drag, and I make duplicates of them. If I had particular parameter settings on here, I would be copying those settings as well, but since they're sort of clean slate plugins, I'm just copying and pasting them over. Again, won't need any effects processing on the sound effects and the music, but on my master fader, this is where I'm going to create a limiter, and that's found under Dynamics and Maxim. Not that I'm going to be using it exactly right now, but it's going to be there for me and it'll save me time later if I want to set a ceiling and adjust my threshold and sort of maximize the loudness. The final thing that I want to do is make sure that my counter up here is showing minutes and seconds, because we're dealing with radio production. We're going to be concerned with making sure that our commercials or our promos are exactly 60 seconds long. So at this point, I think I've got a pretty good template going. I'm going to save it. And then what you got to realize is when you open up this template and you feel like you're going to use it, before you start doing any recording or anything, you're going to save as. So you can create another copy of one. I could save as a template, and that way when I start a new session, it would give me the option, do I want to use this particular template to start? But those templates are married to the Pro Tools system that you're working on currently. So if you're going to be bouncing around from the Multimedia Lab to Studio A or other places, you're going to want to do it the way I showed you. So again, one more time, if I close down this session, now that I've got it all figured out, I saved it under Documents. Here it is, Best Kid template. So if I open that up, I'm going to start a new commercial project. I open up my template. I immediately save as, random commercial, save. And then if I go back to that base folder, you'll notice that I have random commercial Pro Tools session in there. So it's just going to keep saving more and more sessions inside this Best Kid template folder, which is kind of cool because then I can keep all of these sessions in one place. Pretty handy. All right, hopefully this has been helpful. See you later.